How significant is this move?
I think it's a very significant move. It is a step up in pressure on Maduro, and it indicates that if he stays in power, he's going to really face much more constrained resources. It's going to make it very difficult for him to pay off his people and do the other things he's been doing. It's just one more push to get him out the door. But it does also make clear, Joe, that the purpose of this is not just counter narcotics. It is aimed at Maduro, and I hope he understands that very clearly.
Aimed at regime change. What should be done with the crew on this boat, General? And after all the questions about the legality of our striking alleged drug boats coming out of Venezuela, is this in line with the law?
We don't know exactly who the crew is or who the owner of the vessel is. They'll probably be released through diplomatic channels. Vessel will probably be held.
Understood. Is that what should happen to all survivors from boats that we attack?
Well, we've never seen, you're going back to this incident with the double tap. And Joe, the Republicans said in the House said the investigation's over, but the American people have not yet seen the tape or the video. And I think, the administration owes it to the American people to let them know what's happening on this. It's pretty clear now that it's pressure on Maduro. It's going after to show the ability of the United States to strike and use force. Apparently, these people were involved in shipping drugs. That's not the major source of drug shipments into the United States, of course. And some of it may not have been coming to the United States. In this case, apparently, it was going to Suriname and then maybe to Europe. But the fact is, the rules of international law, maritime traditional practices, seamen stranded at sea get picked up. They don't get killed.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not only referring to the double tap strike, General. There were incidents after that where we did help some of those survivors get home. Striking news today, the House Armed Services Committee is ending its investigation into the double tap strike in early September. Is that the right move now?
Depends on what the conclusion of the investigation is. And we still don't really have a conclusion of this. It gets ensnared in politics, but the truth is that when it spills over into something like this that's a potential violation of international law, it's bigger than a House Armed Services investigation and the ability of the chairman to just shut it down. So an explanation go to the American people, including the use of the video, which some members of Congress found shocking. Others didn't. Let the American people judge this, because the American people will be judged on the actions that President Trump and the U.S. Defense Department or War Department take with respect to Venezuela. We've got Americans all over the world. They'll be confronted by this. They'll be asked about it. They're going to be asked to defend or not defend the actions of the United States government. So let's give the American people a chance to see what's really going on.
Well, here we are. Fast forward to the 10th of December. We've seized an oil tanker. If you're just joining us, that has been confirmed by the President of the United States. I don't know if you expect more of this type of activity on what was described as a stateless vessel, General, but the President's also toyed with the idea of land strikes in his conversations with reporters. Is that what comes next?
It might come next, or it might be demonstrations against Maduro inside Venezuela. Or it might be more seizures. I think it's it's a combination of a plan and then opportunism. But the idea clearly is to put the pressure on Maduro and get him out of town and out of the hemisphere. And ideally, it will be done as peacefully, without riots, without fighting and so forth. And he'll recognize that his days, as the president said, are numbered. And he's been no friend of the United States. He's brought in hostile adversaries, potential adversaries from Iran and Russia and Chinese investment and so forth. Under the president's new national security doctrine, we don't want these kinds of people in our hemisphere. But I do have to say, Joe, that despite the new national security doctrine, I mean, Maduro and their presence in the Caracas area and the harbor down there, they're a bunch of mosquitoes. And what's happening in Ukraine is really, really serious. And if it's not handled right, could destabilize Europe and have a huge impact on the United States. And as well as the fact that we've always stood to help those who are fighting for freedom and democracy against tyranny and autocracy. And here we seem to be taking a neutral stance and say, just you boys stop fighting. And there's a lot more to it than that. And our reputation in the world is going to depend on how we settle this. So I hope the president and his team get it right.
Well, I'm glad you went there, General, because there are a lot of questions right now about whether the White House is neutral in this case or, in fact, leaning towards Russia. What do you think?
I think, you have to be careful on something like this, not to lean too far forward. Russia does have important resources. Russia's got a lot of nuclear weapons. It's 140 million people. It's a big country. And, people who have worked this thing for decades, as I have a lot of respect for Russia. And we wish Russia weren't the way it is. But unfortunately, under Vladimir Putin, it's an aggressor nation. And there's no democracy there. Any dissent is harshly punished. There's a tremendous indoctrination program going on for its young people. Its military industries are running 24/7. You'll see disinformation occasionally leaked out. Some came out today saying, well, now Russia really wants to be with the United States. We don't want to be so dependent on China. But, here's the thing, Joe. If Russia really wanted that, all they have to do is stop fighting. Ukraine stops fighting, there's no Ukraine. Russia stops fighting, all doors are open. Once the reparations and the abducted children and so forth, but everything can be settled, presumably. All Russia has to do is stop fighting, and then they don't have to worry about being too dependent on China. So we have to understand what the balance here is, and I think, the administration has to be very careful not to look too far forward in getting in a relationship with Russia at the cost of our values and our European allies. Even though there's a lot of problems in Europe and everybody acknowledges, they've got debt, they've got this, they don't have the same growth rate, they don't have the innovative industries, fine. But there are people who share our values, our language, they work with us, and I'm sure we can, if we wanted to, we could take those 500 million people and lift them up. It would be a lot easier lift than dealing with Vladimir Putin.